So one of the biggest differences has really been, well, twofold. Firstly, has been the advent and the adoption of using data within the business.
It's a combination of all three, but I would say the way data has been earlier categorized or stored creates a huge bottleneck for decision making.
Well, in my opinion, it's probably the way that they are dealing with the internal data, right? Like you said, they've got their CRM, they've got their internal data team, they've got their technology stack ready, but why are they still moving so slowly?
Hi, hello everyone and good afternoon. In today's Fireside chat, we are going to explore how deal making in private capital is evolving in 2026, especially at the intersection of data, AI, and relationship intelligence. This is an area where both DPA and Intapp DealCloud bring deep expertise. Today we have with us Shailesh Dhuri, CEO DPA, along with Daniel Kennedy, VP Financial Services at Intapp, and Michelle Lee from Client Development at Intapp. So we'll begin with you, Daniel. So Daniel, you've been speaking with private capital firms across APAC for years now. So what's the single biggest thing that's different the way deal teams work in 2026 compared to how they worked in 2023?
So one of the biggest differences has really been, well, twofold. Firstly, has been the advent and the adoption of using data within the business. Private data in this industry, especially the private industry, has been sacred for many, many years, and that's not really changed. But what we're starting to get now, and certainly in recent times, is more data become available. So that's been the first pillar of change. And the second pillar of change is obviously the AI conversation. We've seen that be the most aggressive change probably in the last 12 to 18 months. And so what does that mean for deal teams? That means that they're starting to move with a lot less friction and a lot more velocity. And so the outcome that's needed is really, it's focusing people in around how can I get that deal done quicker? How can I move quicker than my competitor in order to leverage that data and use that AI to discover a deal and work through a process to get that deal closed?
Shailesh, coming to you. When you look at the firms that DPA serves, fund admins, asset managers, and banks, where do you find the bottleneck today? I mean, is it people, is it data, or is it technology?
It's a combination of all three, but I would say the way data has been earlier categorized or stored creates a huge bottleneck for decision making. For example, in a PE fund, if they're looking at some old side pockets, then the side pocket letters, where they are stored and are they properly documented in the database, sometimes that becomes an issue for them. And that issue then comes why this happens, because people have changed and people are not kept up to with the modern technology. Now, for example, Agentic AI can help in this solving this problem. So it is a combination of all three. Another thing is that there are multiple systems of records that customers end up buying. They should be focusing on one or two systems of records, and then there is the issue of having inconsistencies in documents and records across the systems of records. There are two things that I find.
So this is the question for all the three of you. A lot of firms today have bought a CRM, they have invested in AI tools, and even built internal data teams, and yet they still feel very slow. So what, according to you, is actually broken? We'll start with you, Michelle.
Well, in my opinion, it's probably the way that they are dealing with the internal data, right? Like you said, they've got their CRM, they've got their internal data team, they've got their technology stack ready, but why are they still moving so slowly, right? It could be because that data internally is not consistent, it's not structured. Therefore, even though there's a system in place, they're not able to fully maximize the use of the system or the use of the internal data to give them the output, if not the analytics that they need in order to move forward quickly.
Over to you, Daniel.
On top of the data, it's probably also process. What we certainly see is organizations who have been running in a certain process or a certain model for many years, and then take technology and expect the technology to sort of bend to them, and they just want to put their old processes on newer technology. Certainly what we advocate for is the industry best practice that we can provide around how deal teams are working, how they are accelerating into new processes, and adopting technology to shorten that process of deal making.
One of the main reasons is that people are not even aware of the full features of suites that is offered by DealCloud. So they end up working outside the system and creating additional records in Excel and other things, which makes them slow. If they are able to appreciate what the product suite offers, then the workflow will be much faster.
Okay, Michelle, from your seat in client development, are you already seeing this shift on how prospects actually evaluate deal platforms today?
100%, and that's a great question. The shift is drastic, right? If we have this conversation 12 months ago, deal makers are asking us, hey, how do you guys, or can you guys help us to track and manage our pipeline, manage our reporting? But as of today, they're now coming and asking us, hey, how can you guys use AI, right, to provide us those analytics, to provide us those data, if not the outputs that we want to move forward? So definitely a shift, right? And have prospects these days, they're now becoming increasingly aware in terms of what they need from a technology perspective. They probably are also thinking how they could use AI or leverage AI into the process, but definitely they've been more well-informed, right, and thoughtful in terms of technology these days.
Daniel, when a DealCloud client comes to you and says that our pipeline reports don't match our deal logs, or our LP records are outdated, and relationship intelligence is showing ghost contacts, so how often do you feel is that a software issue, or do you attribute it more to a data ops problem?
It's a combination of probably a couple of things. So the data gets into that state because of the probably lack of usage or correct usage and adoption of the software. What we tend to see again is organizations who create visions around being best practice globally around deal making, introducing technologies like DealCloud, but then the adoption and usage within the organization doesn't necessarily fulfill the pace that it needs to in order to satisfy the vision of the organization. So again, thinking about how we help them accelerate through that and close those gaps, it's really around making sure, and to Shailesh's excellent point earlier, making sure that usage and adoption is at the right level and the awareness around all of the features that are available, whether that be syncing emails seamlessly from Outlook, whether that be the drive towards zero data entry, to make sure that we're capturing as much information in that centralized institutional view as we can.
Shailesh, from your perspective, what does a DealCloud client get from this partnership?
So obviously the excellent platform of DealCloud with decimal points expertise of data governance, data management, and also automation and using Gen AI. So a product and a service combined.
Michelle, so you've had many conversations with prospects. So what, according to you, is a red flag response that immediately tells you that a firm's data foundation isn't AI ready yet?
That's an interesting question. In terms of red flags wise, probably they're not able to even describe what kind of data they have. Right, the ability to articulate, for instance, I'm a deal maker today, the inability to articulate how are they tracking their deal pipeline. Obviously, it's probably on Excel, or even they don't have a tracker like that. But it's really about maybe the inability to articulate where they're currently centralizing their data, right, how they're using those data, and what kind of data sets they have.
So Daniel, coming to you. For someone who's hearing this partnership for the first time, why do you think it exists, and what was the gap that DPA fills that other partners don't?
So we've got a tremendous delivery capability across the Intapp organization, but where Asia Pacific needs particular support is the nuances and those small focus areas around the fragmented jurisdiction. The Asia Pacific, if you think about it, it spans from Japan to New Zealand, all the way across to India and back. And if you think about all of those countries and you just go over one border and you suddenly change potentially language, culture, network, and maturity level as well. So what we look for and what we needed from DPA and what we're getting in spades is that ability to provide local support and local delivery capabilities, understand the local nuance of the market, and support us not only just in India, but across the entire Asia-Pacific region.
Shailesh, what's the difference between an AI feature and an AI workflow, and which, according to you, matters more right now for a private capital firm?
So AI feature was what was introduced maybe in 2016-17. So whether a company name written in S.B.I or SBI, the same names or not, that's the AI feature. Okay, AI workflow is where AI is looking at the entire context of the data, structured and unstructured data, and taking some decisions, okay, which otherwise humans would have to go through and take the decisions, and then waiting for further instructions from humans if they are not able to make, machine is not able to make a decision, or the decision is too critical. That's the AI workflow. And at this stage, the world has to move towards AI workflow and not just AI feature.
So, Daniel, Intapp has announced a collaboration with Anthropic to build cloud-powered and industry-specific agents inside DealCloud. So for a non-technical audience, what does that actually unlock?
So when we think about the way AI has been employed in not only Intapp solutions like DealCloud, but other technologies, you'll find them coming in two flavors. And that really in the bolt-on variety, where people are, we've seen plenty of people adopting those horizontal AI platforms that aren't necessarily deeply integrated in some way business. Or the way we've approached it, which is the built-in model, where we foundationally use AI in DealCloud big space, and then expose that through the server, the VPC server, through to solutions like Claude. So what that means is you're able to protect, get access to your data, your governance, your roles and responsibilities in a very secure, protected model, and very efficiently using those horizontal platforms. So again, it's being able to leverage the data that you've got within DealCloud on a more horizontal basis.
So this is a question for all of you. So what exactly do you feel is the next chapter for DealCloud in India, and how exactly does DPA fit into that? We'll start with you, Shailesh.
So India is at a cusp of a very strong growth, not only in GDP, but also in the capital markets. The number of transactions that are happening in private space, we have seen they have zoomed up. The number of startups started growing exponentially about 5-6 years ago, just before pandemic, which means now they are ready for M&A activity. And that means M&A activity is going to go up substantially, which means that deal managers would require support which is outside of Excel, because most otherwise Indian players are working in Excel. Time has come for them to move to a institutional global best practices platform like DealCloud.
So what we see and why we're so excited about the DPA partnership is firstly the drive towards internationalization of the Indian market. So there are tons of interest outside of India, people wanting to get involved in the rate of growth through the investment in infrastructure. So in order to capitalize on that, we think the firms in the Indian market need to obviously improve that level of technology in order to access and capture that. Domestically, I think you'll just continue to thrive and create more demand growth and get more competition between organizations. And it's really about who can get to that deal quickest. And the combination of Intapp DealCloud and DPA is going to serve those firms best.
Yeah, in my opinion, touching on what Daniel and Shailesh has mentioned, essentially it's a scaling story. Businesses are growing, right? There's more competition. when your business grows, you're going to increase your manpower, you're dealing with lots of data, you've got a lot of activities to look at. Now, that's the challenging part. And when it comes to DealCloud or rather Intapp, we bring this entire industry best practice globally from international perspective coming to the market. So I thought it's really a great partnership point where we bring that expertise, right, when it comes to best practices, but we've got DPA, right, to constantly guide and kind of shape our clients' thoughts and application. So yes, India is definitely very exciting, right? With increase in activities, with increase in deal volume, there's definitely a lot of things that we could all explore.
Well, that's a great note to end on. Thank you, Daniel, Michelle, and Shailesh for joining us for such an insightful conversation. And thank you for everyone watching. I hope you found this valuable.